and welcome to Let's Talk About It with Taylor Nolan. I am your host, Taylor, and today we have a special guest. She was also on the show, so we're going back in like Bachelor mode a little bit.
Yep.
Welcome Olivia Caridi to the show.
Yay, I just drank water. You can probably hear it.
Oh, it's okay. We might be like burping a lot this episode as well.
We've been sitting in Taylor's dining area talking about how kind of like gassy we are right now.
Yeah,
So
pizza and kombucha.
Pizza and kombucha, water, all ranch dressing.
Yeah. Mine was like spinach pizza though, so I feel
That
like it
smelled
was
really good.
still kind of healthy. It was
Mine was
80s.
old, gross pizza. So
Yeah. You win
I'm so
some, you
broke
lose
that I
some.
have to take opportunities to just have keep every little inch of food that I have.
Yes, I'm doing the same exact thing. Money is
It's like I got this pizza 2 weeks ago, and it's all that's left is a piece of crust. But I'm like, that's dinner.
Yep, you're just holding on to every last bit you can get.
Real life, you guys. This
Yep.
is what real life is like.
This is the glamorous life of reality stars.
Bachelor's elite.
Being poor is fun. But we're not going to be talking about being poor today.
We're done.
But we're going to get into like two different kind of things. We're going to start a little bit about like how we know each other and like what our relationship has been, because I think it allows us to actually talk about forgiveness, which I think is a really important topic. And then also get into a little bit of your story with depression.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yes. We're going to talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Yes. There we go. A plug every episode.
I'm going to ding, ding, ding every time.
I need like a one of those like radio.
Yeah, we'll call
boards.
Brandy has one for her podcast where they ding every time. So
We're
I'll go
gonna
on
need
Amazon Prime and help you out.
Yeah. I'd be like, let's talk about it. Yeah.
So
those
let's.
obnoxious noises. So let's kind of go back here. So you were on Ben's season of Bachelor and you were like villain.
The villain.
And then I was on Bachelor and then I was kind of like, oh, villain.
Not as bad as I was, but you got the stupid title that everyone gets.
Yeah. So I remember before I had even met you at Women Tell All, when we finished, everyone in the crowd like gets to like come up to you, and I was terrified. I was like, I don't want anyone to come up to me.
Brutal.
I was like literally panic attacks all throughout every commercial break of that filming. But your mom came up to me and was like,
Donnie.
I'm Olivia's mom.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to say, like, I think you're so sweet. And like, I'm so sorry you had to go through this. And I like literally started tearing up. I was like,
I remember like, cause I was there too, but I was in the reporters room. There was like a garage where they put all the reporters, and I was watching, and I had just been in the hot seat where you were, and I just felt like so hard for you. And, I knew that they were all trained to like attack you. And I knew that, you were not, it was going to be not like a merciful kind of situation for you. So, I'm pretty sure I had sent you a DM, and then my mom ended up going up to you like within the same night. But I guess we were both like cosmically feeling like we needed to talk to you. Yes. And when my mom told me that she said something to you at first, I was like, oh my God, Mom, that's so embarrassing. But I'm glad it, cause she meant it too. Like it was so hard on my mom as well. So she knew kind of what you were probably going through too, cause she saw me doing it. So, but I'm so glad that helped you.
No, it was a moment of just like really feeling seen and like feeling someone else empathize with me that night was.
We did.
It was, I think there were a few, like some of the crowd did, but
no, I mean, there were definitely, obviously villains are always in the minority in that situation, but I was watching the crowd reaction, and not everyone was against you, but you feel like in that moment, everyone is, the whole world is just like on your shoulders, and you have this one little time frame that they give you to prove everyone wrong. And it never actually happens that way, but
nope. Yeah. You're literally like, you're gearing up for like, the
I like
wrestling
trained
rink.
for it, and you can't, not enough training even goes in,
So I don't know how batch 3 we want to get here, but in that orange folder right there, I printed out
training in here?
I say.
Oh gosh, let me see this.
So I was going back through like a lot of my old journals and whatnot to like
you keep everything.
reflect on
it's
my
incredible.
writing. And I came across
my God.
my journal that I had typed up because I snuck my laptop in for the Women Tell All. My women tell all thoughts, things that I wanted to say.
Post or pre?
Pre. Because like they give you questions, you know, and they're kind of like, this is like about what Chris Harrison would ask.
Oh, no, it's fine. I did the same thing. I went to a coach.
Oh, wow.
Who literally wrote down all of the potential questions, how to respond to everything.
Wow.
So yeah, no, I had something just like this.
Yeah. And it was so weird to go back and like look. And then there was also a journal the night before the premiere of my season and all my thoughts. And it was just, I like wanted to go back and be like, Taylor, you should have trusted your gut. And like,
this is good stuff. No, I had the same thing, but I love that you have that. I've learned a lot about Taylor just in the few weeks I've lived in Seattle, and she keeps everything, everything. I was helping her unpack her boxes, and I was like, "You've had this since 5th grade, haven't you?"
Yep.
Like,
but I don't think I'm like to the point of being like a hoarder, but I just keep like very like sentimental.
What's the word? My sister's the same way. I call her a hoarder because it's a joke, but she's I can't think of the word, but I respect. I love to throw things away. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I'm a declutter person, you know?
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I learned that about her. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Now she keeps everything.
I do. Well, and this was on the computer.
But
I was like, I need this to be tangible.
The dedication.
Seriously.
To Women Tell All.
Yes. It was an intense experience.
Oh, it sure was. But yeah, no, I'm glad that made you feel good. Yeah.
Yes. And then we had talked, I think then it was like, oh, Paradise is coming up. And it was like, we met in LA and like got together.
That's what it was. Yeah. So we I think I did like eventually reach out to you in some way. I can't remember when, but we had brunch in LA.
Yeah.
And it was great. And that was when she was thinking about going to Paradise. Mm-hmm. And
you were kind of thinking about it too.
It was an idea. Producers were talking to me, and I wasn't trying to convince you not to go. I think I was just the opposite perspective where I'm sure a lot of people were saying, yes, you got to go. It's great. And I was just kind of
percentage.
I was the skeptic, and not that like you had any need to listen to me, but I just wanted to present the, I didn't know how it was going to go for you.
Yeah.
Obviously no one knows how anything's going to go for them, but I envisioned it as like Bachelor Part 2.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was just, I felt so much for you then. I was like, I don't want this girl, especially because my friend Leah, who was the villain on Bachelor, decided to go back to Paradise and they just did it again.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of like, ugh,
Yeah.
So I did share my opinions, but we ended up like up until when you went, we talked regularly about it, and
because I had no clue. I was like, this doesn't logically. I don't think it's a good idea, but part of me wonders what if, and the other part of me is kind of at a point where it's like, well, fuck it. You just gotta at some point just be like, you know what? I'm just gonna put myself out there and put my courage pants on and just try to show up the best that I can. And
you're way more brave than I am. You went in till the final day when I stopped talking. You got your phone taken away. Yeah. You just wanted to be courageous, and you wanted to try.
Even then, like when we were in the hotel, I remember Alon coming in, and I was like, "Why am I here?
What is going on?
I don't want to go. I don't want to do this. Like I'm going to go home." And
Olivia's in my head. She's such a pessimist.
I was just like, "This is not a good idea."
Well, I made it known, and we talked and about other things too, but that was kind of the big gist.
And so, and I remember, I don't think anything was like public about it, but then since kind of where we've came in the journey of our friendship, some things have became more public and others are more private.
Yeah.
And some of the things that have been public were like, that you had kind of dated Derek a little bit, and that was something you had talked to me about before going on, and I didn't really look at him in the best light, and it was kind of like, I'm friends with Olivia now, and like, I get where she's coming from. Like, he sounds like a jerk. Like, trying to like take my girl's side and like understand that like you've been hurt. And then when we were in Paradise, the first day, you know, Derek was like very drunk, and we joke, we're like, Derek didn't show up till day 2.
Yeah.
But and I remember just being like very standoffish to him and being like, you know, I'm like, I'm not interested in you at all. Like at first I was even like, he's not even someone I'd be attracted to, like, cause he didn't really have a beard at the time, and like beards are really big for me.
Once the beard came, it was all over, but pre-beard, I was like, eh.
Yeah. And so the second day when we did actually start talking, as soon as he came up, you know, he had his cheesy line of like, "Hey, what's up, kiddo?" And I was like, turn the fuck around.
Yeah, no.
And then that whole conversation, I was very guarded and like wasn't entertaining his jokes or his flirting.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of the conversation, it was like, whoa, this conversation's 3 hours long. What?
And I like him.
Yeah. And so then we had our break, did our ITMs, then came back to like the group thing. And in my ITM, I was kind of like, whoa, what? Like, I think I kind of like him. And then in our second conversation, I kind of like baited him to be like, oh, so have you dated other people in the franchise? Like, blah, blah, blah. To see what he said, you know. And I had kind of shared with him like what I had learned from you, and let him know that like, I didn't really feel comfortable with it because I didn't want to end up like hurting your feelings. And, you know, it was this whole conversation, and then it was kind of like, yeah, we're in Paradise here. Like, this is kind of what you're supposed to do. Like, and then shutdown happened, and it was like, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I didn't know what was going to happen. And then I think part of me felt like it started to feel really real with Derek, and like, he was FaceTiming me constantly, and then I was like,
which is great.
With me. And then I was like, no, but I kind of like you too, even though I'm fighting it.
Yeah.
And I remember like encouraging him to try to like patch things up with you and to like, you know, kind of mend that. And I think I was in a place of like feeling really guilty and feeling like really scared.
Yeah.
Where I did not have my courage pants on. And I thought about it so many times of like, I want to reach out to her. Like I want to talk to her and like explain, but then I feel like I'm explaining myself.
Right.
And, you know, I think, and I didn't end up reaching out to you.
Yeah.
And word had got out, you know, that like we had kind of started talking, and, then kind of all of that went by, and all of Paradise happened, and I never spoke to you. We never said anything. And then afterwards, as it was airing, you know, me and Derek had both heard, Derek and I had heard, like that you were saying things, whatever, you know, that you weren't like fond of the relationship, because you weren't fond of him, and I was being a bad friend. And, you know, I think like you were very hurt by the fact that the relationship had occurred. And then,
well, I think for me, and I thought I said this to you a little bit, and we can talk about how we've patched or discussed things, but I think Derek, we were not in a committed relationship in any way, shape, or form. And I think I've talked about this, but we did see each other.
Yeah.
And I liked him as a person. I enjoyed his company. I think we had a miscommunication on the way that he ended things with me. Yeah. The timing was a little weird. And then, you know, during the break, I had heard that you guys hit it off, and it wasn't even, I was like, oh, that's whatever, fine. But, you know, when it comes down to it, he wasn't even what I was mad about.
It was about like the way that it went down.
It was, I just, if you had, and this is something people can learn just as, you know, it's obviously so scary to confront a situation that's really awkward. We deal with this stuff all the time. Yeah. But I always thought like, if you had called me and just said, dude, this is really weird. Yeah. But like Derek and I like each other and this is weird. And I know what you told me and I know that you were hurt but I could really, like, I want you to be happy. Yeah. Do I still like think fondly of him? I mean, he doesn't really like exist in my world. You can talk about him. Yeah. It's fine. But my priority was always our friendship. And so I just felt it wasn't even that I was angry that the relationship occurred, but just that I had never heard from you. Yeah. But that's also really scary to, you know, say, yo, this is weird and I don't know how to handle this. But no, like if love happens out of weird circumstances, great. You know, like it wasn't like even he had kind of reached out and made it like a, you're mad I broke up with you thing. And it wasn't that.
Yeah.
It was like that. It just never occurred to just say, yo, this is what happened. And it was weird. Yeah. And I hope that you're okay with it. Mm-hmm. And I remember
like we had one text exchange once the shutdown happened, and like we had came home, and it was like you'd kind of ask how it was, kind of, and I said something about like, oh, like it's really interesting, or like there's a lot of things happening.
Yeah, because at the time when I texted you, I didn't know any of this. I was just had heard it shut down, and I was like, Taylor's my girl, so I was just going to text her and see if everything was okay. So that was it. I didn't even know about it at that point. I was just like wanting to know what the heck was happening. So anyway,
and I think like I let that opportunity go by because there were so many things I was trying to process, and then honestly a lot of it was just out of fear.
Well, and you still didn't know as well, like if it was going to come back on.
Yeah, at that point I was like, I may never see this dude again.
Exactly. Like we're not engaged right now. So yeah, I mean it was a lot of miscommunications and I chose to just never say anything because I've been burned so many times in life, in the Bachelor, in whatever, and I just decided like you got to pick your battles. Yeah. And this to me, like I always knew that you wanted to talk to me, and
because there were like times in Nashville too where I was like, I want to get together with her.
But then I had heard that. Like there was a couple times where you and Derek were in Nashville, and I could have gone to these events that but I just wasn't. I didn't want to have a run-in there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I always knew, like, you not talking to me was never, like, something that was mean that you were doing or aggressive. It was just, I don't know, it was a weird situation. And then Derek has his own feelings about me. And so I never really wanted to, like, force myself on you because I didn't know how he would feel about that. So there were all these things. But
so many dynamics.
Yeah. But I never felt like you were being rude ever. I just was always kind of like, I just feel like there's no place for me in this dynamic anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think as I reflect on it, it really was coming from a place of being scared and like of the unknown, and also
I'm also kind of a terrifying person.
I don't know how she's going to react to this. And like we had hung out a few times, but like hadn't gotten super close. But I was like, I wanted us to get closer. But then I was did I totally screw up us being able to get closer? And, I had wanted those times in Nashville for us to be able to like get together, just the two of us one-on-one, because I'm like a one-on-one kind of person. Yeah. And, when I saw that you were in Seattle, I reached out and was like, you're in Seattle.
Yeah. So Taylor had messaged me, I came out for an interview for the job that I now have. And it was like a really quick, when you had messaged me, I was actually already home. But I came to Seattle and I actually had dinner with another Bachelor friend of mine, and I put my location at a restaurant, and Taylor's cat's
Lily is chasing her tail on the couch.
Hilarious.
Like,
she's ridiculous. But yeah, she reached out and said, you're at a restaurant that I love or something. I can't remember what it was. But if you're open to it, I'd love to get together. And in that moment, and so much time, by the way, has passed since,
months,
all of this. And I just was like, you know what? Yeah. Like, why would I not? Yeah. And I didn't even know if I was going to get the job. I had a feeling I was. So I said, I'll reach out if I'm back. And the day that I got here, I texted Taylor and said, do you want to get lunch? And it was I was really scared at first, but you handled it perfectly.
Aw.
You did.
Thank you.
All I needed, like literally, I'm such a forgiving person.
Yeah.
And
forgiveness,
I don't,
ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, ding, ding, ding. I don't have room in my life for like bad energy. And, like true friendships and good people are hard to come by, especially in this franchise. Yes. And so I just felt like the minute it was acknowledged, it would be fine. Like I didn't want to fight about it. I'm over it. I even want you to like feel comfortable talking to me about, like just like I vent about my relationships or my dating. Like I want you to be able to do the same. We're not feeling like it's awkward for me.
Yeah.
I mean, will it be awkward if he's ever in town? Like, and I live close to you? Maybe, because I don't like me and him or,
It's
whatever.
a different relationship. Yeah.
But like it's not worth it to me to lose someone I value, especially when you're happy and you're in love. Like, why would I fight that? You know, it's not like I'm sitting here being like, oh, why doesn't he love me? Like, no, I've been in love since then and had my heart broken since then. Like, it's not even like a thing.
It's old news at this point. But yeah,
forgiveness is cool.
Yeah. So since we're keeping it real, something I've experienced lately that I just got to keep it real with, going to the doctor's office is almost impossible to find time to do. And it's like tedious. It's super expensive. But now I've actually found Everlywell to help me with at-home testing for all kinds of different things, for food sensitivity, metabolism, thyroid tests. These tests are private, they're simple, and they're all processed through certified labs. So like you can actually trust your results, but you don't have to go in and like schedule with a doctor and wait in the waiting room and deal with all that stuff. All you have to do is head to everlywell.com, choose your tests, and they'll be shipped right to your door. And they're really easy to actually do. You just collect your sample and then send it back to Everlywell's certified labs. They will process your sample and send you back your results online. You set up an account and it's super easy to do. I got the food sensitivity test and I'm just waiting to hear back what my results are on it. And I'm super excited because it's going to be like awesome information that would have taken me forever to find out had I actually gone to a doctor's office. And like my input versus output is so much greater doing it this way as opposed to going into the office. So I'm super glad I found Everlywell. You can just head to everlywell.com and use my code Taylor to take 15% off your first order. Again, head to everlywell.com and use offer code Taylor for 15% off your first order. Take control of your health today with Everlywell's at-home health tests and get to know you. And now that I've got that off my chest, I guess we can go back to keeping it real with the matter at hand. I think I guess I'll ask you like what forgiveness means to you or what forgiveness looks like and how that's maybe been in practice in our relationship or in other situations.
I mean, for me, forgiveness is a lot about ego. I've had trouble forgiving people in the past because of my ego.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more you gotta like humble yourself in relationships, and we're not perfect. No one is. My gosh, I'm not perfect at all. But I think it's valuing people more than your ego.
Yeah.
And valuing quality relationships and realizing that nothing is perfect. No one is perfect. Everyone is going to say things that they regret, do things they regret. But like life isn't worth holding grudges and like being proud.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, yeah, there's a lot of people who have done things in my life and I'm just like, you gotta go, like toxic. But
yeah,
I mean, to just hold things against people when it just feels so good to just like let go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, when you are holding on to that literally does take up energy on your heart. And it is something that you walk around with and that you carry.
Super heavy.
And for me, I think like forgiveness is a lot about letting go of that energy, getting rid of that blockade in your heart, your biggest energy source in your body. And for me, the process of forgiving has a lot to do with empathy and really understanding where the other person is coming from, putting myself in their shoes, like the part of our relationship where I felt hurt was where, I had heard that you had like been talking about the relationship and that was in a negative way and that hurt my feelings. And when I think about forgiving that, I think, if I were in her shoes and like I experienced this, like I can understand where there would be some anger there would be some hurt feelings there. Yeah. Like I can empathize with that and like I get that where that would suck and like it may also have hurt me, but I know that wasn't your primary intention to be like
nothing
hurtful. Like I know that it's not intentional and I know it's not spiteful, but that it was like coming from a place of like strong emotion for you and being able to empathize with that for me was like, I can let go of how this hurt me and, move forward trying to better understand where she was coming from.
And I've grown you know, I am someone, unfortunately, and you just gave me, well, not gave, but I'm going to read it, this book, Won't You Apologize?
Yeah.
This whole franchise and things that are associated with it, I am guilty of retaliation always, because I feel like,
well, the need to like defend yourself.
The one entity I cannot forgive is this show and everything to do with it. And I wish I could. We're talking about forgiveness, and here I am saying like, just let it go, but I just can't. And so things that are attached to it and situations like this, like they just make me angry. And I'm someone, I do struggle with, not necessarily a temper, but I'm a pessimist in many ways. And I retaliate. And so I just felt a lot like this show and everything it's done. And it's just, how am I attached to this again? And then, you know, all of a sudden everyone's talking about it. And, you know, it's hard when, you know, everyone wants to watch the show and I wanted to watch it, but it was hard to watch this relationship unfold that was like making my heart hurt. And so, yeah, I mean, I had for sure said things that I shouldn't have said. And I'm sorry for that. It sucks like to hear that stuff, but like, you have to know that I'm not a malicious person. And I felt anger. But then once I saw you two together, it wasn't about me anymore. Yeah. And so I just had to let it go, you know? And even now, like, it doesn't, you know, you're happy and so great. Like, you're happy. Yeah. He's happy. Great. Yeah. Let's all just like be happy and do pretty things. But yeah, I mean, I've retaliated. This show makes me angry and everything attached to it. And that this is like a daily process for me of forgiving these people that I know will never apologize. Yeah. Ever.
And that's where I think that's a really important point to think about how you can forgive when there hasn't been an apology. Yeah. And, you know, I think in kind of relating it to the show, I can empathize there. I feel like I've experienced similar things where it is like a lot of anger towards it and kind of how it's impacted your life and how that changes and wanting someone to take responsibility. Yeah. And for me, when I look at that, like I've come to the terms with the fact that my experience on the show was traumatic. Totally. It was 100% trauma. It was. And even in therapy, it's like, this was trauma. Like, what? Like, no, I've had a traumatic experience now. What?
The epitome.
And you have to come to like a place of acceptance with that. And so I then have to like, I think of who Taylor was in that traumatized state. And I think of Taylor at Women's Hell All, hyperventilating, panic attacks in between commercial breaks. And in some ways that was like the child in Taylor wanting someone to step up and be like, I'm sorry this has happened. And I someone taking some kind of responsibility. Yeah. And like, I look back at that version of Taylor now and like, I try to provide that for her. Yeah. And it's a really weird process to do, but like going back and reading these is like me getting in touch with myself of like, okay, like you really like, you were just trying to like stick up for yourself. You're really just trying, like you were in a lose-lose situation and like, I'm so sorry you were in that place. And like, that kind of helps me to like have on one hand, a logical understanding of why things happened the way that they did, to help with forgiveness. But then there's the emotional part that like gets you so worked up and makes you like feel just all the feels. Feel all the feels. Yeah, it's brutal. Yes. And I'm more so in like the last 8 months at a place where I just have just let the whole thing go, which, you know, I think our reconciliation came at a good time. Yeah. Because I'm at a place, you know, I've moved again. I'm kind of a gypsy, but I've moved to a place where I feel like I'm home and, it's all behind me. And, it's a new beginning.
Yeah. And as far as like an apology could go, like yours was one of the best I've ever heard. And I also, in a way, didn't need to hear it. Yeah. You know, like if you had sat down with me and said nothing, probably would have been okay.
Yeah.
Because you showed me in other ways.
Started out like that.
Yeah.
Like just having like normal conversation.
Yeah,
and, like,
it wasn't an immediate like,
yeah, but
yo, sorry.
But I almost wanted it to start that way. No. And then I remember thinking, I was like, you know, we're talking about like you're dating right now and like I'm supporting you in that. But then I was like, before we like keep being going friends down. Right now, like there's things I want to say. There's things I want to address.
No, I get it. You did it perfectly.
So,
and if you hadn't, it still would have been perfect. But you were also showing it in way, you know, you were saying, I'll help you find places. And, you know, you were being so active and here are neighborhoods you should look at. So, so I think,
but then when you don't have that, when you don't have someone actively showing you through their behaviors or even verbally that like, that they're sorry, like of going about forgiving that. Oof. It's so hard and it creates, and that's where again, like forgiveness is for you.
Yep.
For you to let go of that energy.
Well, I think
blockage.
you might have needed to let it go too. So it was good for both of us. And then I said, I literally was like, don't even worry about it, but we can talk about it. Like, but I'm not mad here. I'm not going to freak out. I'm here. Like I'm having a beer. It's good. We're all good. And then since then it's, you know, like I'm so happy we live very, very close on top of each other, basically. And there's just so much room to like grow from here. And I think, you know, sometimes bad things happen so that better things can come forward. So it's all, there's no, people have said like, you guys are hanging out, whatever, how weird. It's not weird.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's like, I don't even think about it. When people have written things, I'm like, oh yeah, we should probably address that. Yeah. And that's the story. There's no weird beef or anything.
Nope. Nope. And I wonder, like for you, where kind of that process of like letting go and doing all of that, like how you kind of move forward with that, with everything, with the show and how that's impacted your life, and maybe even just for me to reflect on. Yeah. But I mean, I think I see some of those steps that you are taking, like you've said, like being in Seattle and like working in this new job and like doing things that in a way help you have like a sense of normalcy in your life that aren't related to the show. Right. But even then, you know, the experience of the show is still going to follow you. Always. And dealing with that part of your identity, like, it's always going to be a part of me. It's always going to be a part of you. Yeah. In the ways you would literally least expect it. The guy that came to fix my blinds. The guy that came to fix my freaking blinds.
The older guy, by the way.
The woman that came to like in-home euthanize Theo.
She too? Oh, wow. Yeah.
As soon as she opened the door, it was,
Yeah. I mean, obviously it probably happens for you way more. In Seattle's it's actually been great.
Seattle's very
Nashville was brutal. I will say, as far as just going out and being annihilated by people. And I even bring my pessimism about the show, like, to people. Yeah. And it's weird and I don't like it. But like when people ask me, you know, I even get messages all the time of people, I'm nominating my friend for the show. What should I put in the video? I'm like, do you realize who you're asking that to?
Yeah. You're like, rip that video.
I am like, rip it apart and never go on that show ever. So I'm just not someone that I'm not roses and rainbows about the show.
You do roses on your face. You do have roses on your face,
I'm wearing a face mask. It's clear though. It's like I can kind of see it in the...
It's rose water.
It's something that follows you forever. So it's a weird... it's the weirdest thing I've had to forgive. And I can't say that I even have.
Yeah. And it's, you know, when you talk about like retaliating and everything like that, for me, I think I see defensiveness. I see trying to protect yourself. Yeah. And like... when I think back to Taylor Women Tell All and just all of Bachelor, you know, it's like wanting someone to help defend me. And how do I defend myself? And at times feeling very defenseless. Yeah. And so I think that's like a weird thing to come to terms with as well.
It's a lonely process too. Like, I think maybe even part of the reason I was retaliating and saying things about your relationship was you don't have a voice. No one's listening. Yeah. And I just felt like I've been wronged and no one cares. And I'm going to just get mad about it. Or with the show, like these people are horrible and they just are going on and, you know, making money, and we're silenced. And it's just like, it's a weird,
it's like, how do you empathize with that?
Yeah. It's a weird feeling of being like voiceless when I'm someone who, like, I love to use my voice. I love to speak. I love to impact. And all of a sudden,
both big talkers.
Yeah. And all of a sudden I'm there's so many times in this related to this show where it's like, no one can hear me. No one cares. You know, it's like I've gone into this little depth and no one, it's like, how do I? So yeah, there's so many layers to all of this and like moving on and getting past things. And there's just some things you can't really get past. I don't know. That's something I think about every day. But in terms of our relationship, like, it was very passable.
Yeah, I don't think our relationship was a traumatic event for us.
No, but you know, like, of course, you know, when I'm telling my friends at home, oh, I'm living with me and Taylor hanging out, their first response is, what, does Derek know? So it's like, there's still all of these things where, like, you know, people think, oh my gosh, this is this horrible thing. And, you know, you can't really, it's all a very weird. The franchise is weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense to people.
It is. And I remember, I think it was the first time I met you, and even several conversations after that, before Paradise, of you kind of, you know, mentoring me in a way because I was, you know, fresher off of the experience, about like,
we're both
burp.
It's kombucha.
About how lonely it is, and about how even people that you think are your friends are not your friends.
No.
And that, I think, in some ways I heard you, and in other ways I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yep.
I was like, no, I don't believe that's true, because I think we can have good connections with each other. And it's just it's different kinds of relationships. And I think you would authentically have with people in your normal life pre-show.
Right.
But I think, you know, that our relationship was definitely one that could have just continued the distance, could have just been like, she's just some girl that was on the show. We don't have any kind of, you know, connection, whatever. And then, you know, of course I didn't really feel that way, and I wanted us to have a relationship. And then you being in Seattle, like, Seattle is my home. She
love
shared
Seattle. It so well, shared her friends, shared her restaurants, her dessert places, everything. No, it's been, like, Taylor's been a really big part of this place feeling like home. And so that's why it's worth it. You got to look at the big picture here in this world. And there's not enough time on this earth with people, with anything to just like holds, you know.
Yep. And that's where it's like, I try my best to keep my heart open and like be inclusive. And that's being here in Seattle is definitely a place where, like, I feel that.
Oh, it's great.
More
I went on a hike the other day with a guy, a friend of hers, who she
Colin,
introduced me to. Colin,
he was on our white privilege episode.
Colin and I went on a hike, and then Colin and I got to know each other. And Colin's someone like Taylor who really, like, gets deep with people, like, isn't a surface person. And now, like, Taylor's leaving town, and I feel comfortable texting Colin and being like, hey, I don't have friends here, let's hang out. So it's really cool, and like, the community that Taylor has here is really special. And like, it just was worth it to forgive and forget. And it's like, it's forgotten.
And I think that all of the things that you've, like, just talked about are all the things that are possible when you do open your heart.
Totally.
And I know it sounds like so cheesy and cliche, like, open your heart.
No, it's not.
But literally, I mean, you can physically tell when you're closing your heart and you're holding that and you're like, I'm not going to talk to that person.
Ugh.
Like, it's a really uncomfortable feeling for me.
It's a freaking weight, and it is, like, so heavy.
Yeah. And I think it's, you know, like, talking about the show, like, something I do definitely experience when I think about the show, or when I talk to some people from the show, and maybe that's something you can relate to as well, where you can physically feel that, like, discomfort come over you.
You can see it on my face too. That's so true. Yeah. Anytime, and I can see it in Taylor too. Like, whenever someone brings it up, and it's not like she doesn't enjoy, like, talking about her engagement or talking about, you know, her life, but you can just feel this sense of, like, oh, these people. And then
sometimes it feels like you're being tested.
Oh,
in
totally.
A way.
And we were in a situation recently where people were asking questions, and there's a lot of people who don't understand, you know, getting engaged really quickly or whatnot. And I could see on their faces just like the silent judgment. And I kept trying to hop in and, you know, I was like, well, but they or whatever. And you know, so it's an uncomfortable thing. And I was, it's like saving someone from the guy that they don't want to talk to at a bar. Like you just got to step in because you can see the like, So yeah, there's, I try to be a help at least, Lord. Yeah. It's just, such a weird.
And I, like what you said, you know, that it's just, it is so uncomfortable and that it's something you kind of get used to, but I think it's so weird because I think back to like before going on the show, who I was and why I went on. And a big part of it was like, I'm going to, you know, lean into discomfort. Thanks, Brene Brown. Yes. I'm going to dare greatly and I'm going to,
I read all her stuff right beforehand.
Yes. And I was like, you know, I really just want to get comfortable with the unknown. I want to get comfortable with the things that are uncomfortable. Yeah. And, you know, you look at like the whole experience of the show and like how fucking uncomfortable it is. And then afterwards dealing with those things too of like,
still
you know,
a damn mess.
How can I, you know, interact and have this, how can I lean into this, the discomfort? There are times, you know, where like people approach me and, will, you know, for example, the guy that came into my blinds and was like, oh, yeah, they made you look real crazy on that show. And just kept going on and on and on about how, they made you look real crazy. And I was like, this is so, mind you, it's also the day after I had to say goodbye to Theo. So I was very not pleased. Yeah. But I was like, how can I like kind of be comfortable in this situation? And like, how can I like...
Meanwhile, I'm like, how can I not ask this guy to get the hell out of my apartment?
Yeah.
That's why.
And even, you know, with people, sometimes they're like, oh, like you and Corinne, blah, blah, blah. And it's like leaning into that conversation of like, I'm going to be as authentic as I can be and just let you know, like, yeah, it's uncomfortable. And I don't actually want to talk about it.
It's like, please don't see it on my face. Yeah, people, I think we're giving a hint that maybe it's just, if anything, it's just you know, if you're going through a tough relationship personally, or I just think we should say what we want to say to people and like
say what you need to say.
Yeah. Say what you need. Yeah. So, and just like do things that make you more weightless. And so that was a weight that I was holding, and I probably wouldn't have had the balls to say anything, not because I was afraid to, but I felt like the ship had sailed. And I've changed my opinion now. So there is no ship that sails in that regard. There's always time.
I think as long as you like show up and are authentic and genuine, that like that connection can still be made, even if it feels like the ship has sailed.
No, they can always, I love females. I love friendship, and I think females are the best. And like, you got to show up for people, and you got to champion people. And it's just, like, that's the story. There's no craziness to it. And hopefully, I mean, I'm sure people will keep asking, but
hopefully if your questions haven't been answered here,
please ask them if you need, if we're not giving you enough, but like, all is good.
And I think even the concept of like being friends with girls from the show, or being friends with girls who have dated the same guy,
which is like,
a weird concept.
It never makes sense. And it, you know, in life it's weird. And then the show, it's 40 times weirder because everyone has like dated everyone, and it's, and I mean, I think it's a different situation because admittedly, like, it was never a serious, I was going to marry Derek kind of situation. And even like, we were both knew that paradise was a topic, but we never were like, we're committed to each other and we're going on the show together. It wasn't like that. So, so people might have this idea that, you know, we were like deeply in love. That was not the case. So for me, like, it wasn't as complicated of a apology, forgiveness situation as you might think it was. And you know, so anyway.
Yeah. And I think that there's a certain level of like openness and forgiveness and understanding with like being friends with other women who have dated the same person. And I think there's also a sense of like security that you have to have within yourself to like be comfortable with that. Like there's definitely parts of me that could have been totally uncomfortable being friends with any girl that Derek has ever been with. Yeah. And for me, I feel like if Derek had a relationship with someone because he liked them and I like him and he likes me, then I would probably like who he liked.
Totally.
You know?
Well, the other thing is like, I know, and I have other girlfriends who have dated guys that I have dated, and at first it's a little weird, but there's something really beautiful about finding the person that you love and love itself.
Yeah.
And for me, if the person that I liked is perfect for this person, like what is there to be upset about?
Yeah.
I want it just as bad. So for me, it's like, congratulations, like this is great. And so yeah, I mean, I understand the whole like girl code and all that stuff, but I also just believe that love is really cool and that we're all like chasing it. And if, not chasing it, well, I'm constantly chasing it, which is my issue.
But we don't want to chase it.
We don't want to chase it. If love is, if we're lucky enough to find it, like, you know, one of the reasons why I can so easily let go is like Derek and I we're not like soulmates, so it's fine. Like if you guys are freaking awesome, or if me and my girlfriend who is dating a guy I dated, they're great for each other. So like awesome. I feel like I set them up.
Yeah.
So it's like in that respect, I understand how hard it is to sometimes get in normal life too, like to get past this whole dating friend thing.
Yeah.
But if you kind of look at it as a way of like an inspiration and less of like a
competition.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's something we kind of talked about a little bit in our like male female friends episode, like being friends with people of the opposite sex, you know? And like, I think one of the biggest takeaways from that episode is focusing on inclusion and like, again, keeping your heart open and like getting to know people on a deeper levels. And I think like I've gotten to know you on such a deeper level, and like I'm really appreciative of that. Totally. And I like really value being able to have that connection with you and with anyone that I become friends with. But that it is kind of all like an inclusive thing. Like I want all my friends to be able to be friends with each other. And like, if my friends go and do something without me, it's like, okay, like I'm really glad that like I connected them and that they were able to experience that.
Like I'm a girl from my season who I've been close with for a long time. I said, Taylor, you got to meet her. I think you guys would get along. Now the three of us hang out. We got a little group text. Like it's fabulous. I think finding good people in your corner are great, and building your community is great. And forgiveness is like a huge part of that. It's massive, you know?
Yeah. And things are always going to come up. And I remember, especially before moving to Seattle, I was so particular with my friendships. I had the highest standards for my friendships.
Top tier.
Like
top tier only.
Like if someone did like one thing that like hurt my feelings, I was like, nope, they're not a good friend. That's not my friend anymore. Like, and I couldn't forgive that. And I couldn't like look past that and see where like, oh, like they had something else going on that night. Like they didn't not want to hang out with me intentionally, but something else happened. And instead it was something I took so personally. And I'd be like, oh my God, like they just rejected me. Jerk. Like, oh, they're not actually a good friend. And
gosh, we've all been there.
Yeah. And I look back at it, I'm like, wow, what a long way I've come from being so like closed off in friendships. Like Taylor several years ago, you know, would have like completely written you off, and I would have been like, nope, we're never going to be friends.
No, I think the evolution of like us as human beings and us as friends is very cool. And I think we tell you this story because we want to inspire you, not to make you like gossip, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's not what.
Yeah, no, like we're not. We talked about it before, and she was like, "Do you want to talk about this? Have you ever even talked about this?" And I was like, "Well, not really, but let's freaking do it because why not?" Because like,
I think there are a lot of things other people can take away because I don't think that the situation is totally unique.
No,
and I think
it's just unfortunately we're like under a microscope, and so and people have all these assumptions of the best way to you know stop the train of weirdness is to just talk about it. Like if Derek comes to town, I would say hello, hugs. We'll hopefully hang out. Like I don't know what it will be like, but Like, it's not anything weird. It's like, there's no conspiracy theories. I'm happy. I just want everyone to be happy. And I hope that one day, like, I can be happy like that.
I'm going to try.
She's trying.
Wing woman.
No, I mean, it's just like, if you take it as an inspiration for yourself, like, you know, I can only hope that one day I have the happiness that y'all have. And so like, just use it as a inspiration and not something that like weighs you down. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, that's the story, you guys.
That's the story.
We talked about it.
We did talk about it. And I hope that like forgiveness is something people can reflect on post this episode. Please and like, especially in how it relates to maybe your lady friendships or your like male to male friendships. Yeah.
And even if it's weird, talk about it. Yeah. Just do it. Because it's surprising how quickly you can get over things. Because once you actually like show up vulnerably, those walls I think come down. They're just gone, you know? Like so just do it, you know? Just talk. Yeah. Talk about it even if it's awkward and weird and strange and doesn't make any sense and it makes people say what the heck, but just freaking do it. That's why you got to lean into the discomfort of it. In. And make that show. Why won't you apologize? It's by Harriet Lerner. Harriet Lerner. Why won't you apologize? Healing Big Betrayals and Everyday Hurts. I mean, this book is a game changer. I can't wait. Brene Brown. Brene said that, so you know it's real. So that's why I was like, I can't wait. Taylor took it off her wall, and I was like, hey, can I? You're leaving for 2 weeks, so you're not going to need it. Yeah, great. I can't wait. Practical and profound. Just do it. Just forgive. Forgiveness, apologizing. Yeah. All of the good things. All of the things that you should do in a daily life to make yourself better. Yes. Yeah. And we are neighbors now. So we are literally neighbors. We will have, I'm sure, many more episodes together, both on. No, I already told Taylor, like, hey, I'm kind of lazy with my pod, and anytime I need you, you're coming in. But the valuable thing is, people loved our episode together. They thought it was great. Yeah? Yeah, people were loving hearing you. Good. And it's fun to talk to people who I feel like you match with intellectually and who can really get deep and then also gets just super fun and vulnerable at the same time. So and have kombucha burps. And all at the same time. And the toots and the gas and all that stuff. And so Yes. Yeah. So it's good stuff. So if you haven't listened to my episode with Taylor, you should, because she also, I think, interestingly, talks a lot about her relationship dynamics and got real about relationships that don't look like everyone else's, which is really cool. So listen to that too. And where can people find that? Oh, sorry. Yeah. I forget. My podcast is called Mouthing Off. Taylor was my last guest. I don't know. Google it. Mouthing Off. It's on your Apple podcast app thingy dingy. There will be a link to it in the episode notes description. Yeah, and you'll see us both on each other's podcasts a lot. But Taylor had a really cool perspective on relationships that don't look like the typical relationship, and a lot of people got some cool stuff out of it. So good. I'm glad. Yeah. Well, thank you. And I definitely want to do another episode in the future where we will discuss depression. We just spent a little bit more time on forgiveness here, but there was a lot to talk about. Hey, you guys, I'm depressed, so. Coming up next week. Olivia talks about depression. Yeah, it's good stuff. I've been wanting to do an episode on it, and we've got some letters that I definitely want to answer. How long did we go on forgiveness? 51 minutes. Oh my God. 50. Sorry, guys. Yeah. No, it's okay. I think it's good stuff. It's like relatable, real life story here. And that's hilarious. I could have gone on for like 3 more hours. Okay. Yeah. Great. Forgiveness. I think we've done forgiveness both. We did it with the show a little bit, which is still processing for us. It's still a thing. And will take time. Yeah. But I think that's also something to forgive within yourself, that it's okay that it takes time, and it's okay to me that you're still I'm going to forgive myself for being so angry at myself for a long time for what happened, and then I'm going to somehow forgive those people in that room that did those things. I'm going to forgive them. We'll talk about it more, not on the pod, and then one day we'll talk about it on the pod. Yeah, I got some tea actually that we gotta. I can't. Yeah. Spill it. So, all right. Well, you guys can find Olivia on her pod, Mouthing Off, and
And send us emails at ask.letstalkaboutit@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Let's Talk About It _podcast. And I'll be back next week with another fun episode
About depression.
I don't know yet.
We'll see.
Tune in next week. All right. Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by Wave Podcast Network. Check out all of our shows, including the Brain Candy Podcast, I Don't Get It, Babes and Babies, Coffee Convos, and Let's Talk About It.